I think you're still on mute, Linda Jo.
Okay, folks, you all know me, most of you do. So I'm the Community Development Coordinator for the SICAP program. So the aim of SICAP is to reduce poverty and promote social inclusion and equality. So there are two goals in SICAP, and I'm the coordinator of Goal 1. My colleague Tricia spoke on Goal 2 last night. So Goal 1 is all about supporting disadvantaged communities. We find out what communities need and try and help them solve their problems. And we work together with other agencies to address social exclusion and equality issues. And that's very important. So who do we work with? Well, we work with communities of interest, which include travellers, Roma, people with disabilities, older people, unemployed, new communities, and geographic areas, mainly local authority estates in rural and urban areas in County Westmeath. So just an example of some projects and photos. The first picture on the left is a picture of our Traveller Pride. Next to it is the Bulbs for Bees presentation in Bandara. Bottom left is Anne Campbell with an older people's group. And bottom right is the Make Way Day that we did back in September in conjunction with Westmeath County Council. So our first action is about development work in rural areas, and we're working in 18 designated areas, estates and rural towns and villages, which include Balnacarragee, Ballymore, Castlepollard, Castletown-Gagan, Delvin, Kilbeggan, Kinnegad, Moat, Rahani and Rochford Bridge. And you'll see an area highlighted in yellow, the Old Clara Road in Moat. That's a new area for us this year. So we're looking forward to starting there. So our aim is to support residents to come together, to form a group, develop a plan, and help these local areas identify important issues which need addressing. And there's 1,500 of a grant that each of those areas can get, and that's really important to them. We also help groups to work with the relevant agencies to get their issues addressed. For example, illegal dumping, antisocial behaviour and road safety. So one example of that is Mount Carmel in Moat looked for a ramp because they had traffic issues, and I know that that's just been sorted out at the moment, so they're delighted. So here's an example of some pictures from the Goal 1 work from those 1,500 grants that were given to the groups. So examples of power washing, a new fence, flowers and shrubs, and a big cleanup. So then we work on action 2, which is about empowering local communities. So when we work with groups, we find out what training needs they may have, and we try to organise training workshops to suit the needs of the groups. So some examples of what we've been doing over the last number of years is running committee skills, funding workshop, understanding equality, mental health, small engines training for the tourist workers, how to use Zoom, that was very important last year, computers, media skills, disability awareness, and we also run a food and health project in West CD, and we link that up to communities. And very importantly, we also help groups apply for funding. And last year, we helped the groups lever about 72,000 euros in total, which is a lot of money. So here's an example of empowering communities and action. So the picture on the left is Sharon and Hubert did committee skills training out on Rochford Bridge. And the picture on the right is the older people's group learning the tablet training in the Bloomfield Hotel, which was very, very important for them. So then action 3 is about Athlone and Mullingar Rapid Programme, and that's about revitalising areas through planning, investment and development. So it's urban local authority estates. So in Athlone, we have Willow Park, Ashdale Woodland Grove, Sarsfield Square, Blackberry Lane and Battery Heights. And in Mullingar, we have Grange, Dalton Park, Enel, Raheen and Michael's Park. We organise relevant meetings, provide all the admin support, including minutes, writing up work plans, progress reports, and we also carry out community development work with groups. The groups come to the training that we put on, and we help those groups apply for funding as well. So recently we were very lucky that we managed to squeeze the Athlone Rapid Programme tour in back in November. So there are a few pictures from the tour. The first one is up in Battery Heights, the new chairperson explaining what was going on. The middle picture is the cleaning up of the River Al in Willow Park. And the third picture is us all congregating in Ashdale Woodland Grove. And you'll see a sign there in the foreground of the picture, and that's to ask people to clean up after their dogs, which was a really important issue. So Action 4 is about enhancing collaboration, and we work with statutory, community and voluntary agencies in the county. We do this to support our community groups to get their voice heard. So examples of the agencies would be Westmeath County Council, the HSC, Youth Services, etc. We attend relevant meetings as and when required. We support the work of the PPN and help reps learn what it's all about, which is really important. We facilitate the Community Development Youth Working Group, the Disability Working Group, and the Traveller Advisory Group. And we manage the Traveller Project for County Westmeath, and we've been doing that for a number of years. We have a social enterprise action, which my colleague Frank Murta works on, and that's to provide support and advice and to assist with the sustainability of existing social enterprises. There's also a small grant scheme that can help groups in various ways for a feasibility study for a business idea or equipment. And we also set up a community services project network a few years ago, and that's used to consult with them and help get any issues addressed. So last night you would have heard also from Martha, my other colleague who works on the Older People's Project. But the people listed here are my team. So we've got Hubert and Sharon and Caroline, Martha, Caroline Nevin and Christine Joyce, and 4 community health workers that work on the Traveller Project. And not forgetting Brendan and Olivia, who support us with all our admin. So thank you very much, folks, for listening.
Thank you very much, Linda. I know that was a bit of a struggle for you with your chest infection, so thanks for attending and making sure you were able to give the presentation. Our next presenter is Bernie Levy also from Westmeath Community Development, who will talk to us about the Rural Development Programme, the LEADER Programme. Thanks, Bernie.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, my name is Bernie Levy, work with Westmeath Community Development, specifically on the LEADER Programme. Most of you would be familiar with LEADER, but I suppose particularly tonight we just want to focus a little bit on our current availability of funding, and that would be under what we know as the LEADER Transitional Programme. Within that there is a tranche of funding known as the European Union Recovery Instrument. So we just want to look at the budget available for projects under that programme, which is a 2-year programme, 21 and 22. So we have just over 1.6 million for projects for that 2-year period, 1.132 coming out of the transitional programme, and then just over $500,000 then under the European Union Recovery Instrument. Within this transitional programme, the themes and sub-themes are similar to what would have been under the previous programme. So we just want to highlight those again. So it is divided up into 3 themes. The first one, economic development, enterprise development and job creation. And within that, we have sub-themes focusing on rural tourism, enterprise development, rural towns and broadband. And then under the second theme of social inclusion, we have basic services for hard to reach communities and rural youth. And then the third one is the rural environment. And we have 3 sub-themes within that: protection and sustainable use of water resources, protection and improvement of local biodiversity, and the development of renewable energy. We just want to highlight a number of the priorities that are particular to the transitional programme. And these priorities are likely to focus again for the new leader programme, which is due to commence in 2023. So we just want to highlight those priorities. They are supporting communities in the post-COVID recovery, supporting hard to reach communities, supporting communities that would have not previously availed of leader support, supporting communities to develop skills in the digital economy, such as ICT training, remote working, the green economy, and in particular, we'll be looking at environmental initiatives to counteract climate change. And again, that will be projects in the area of protection of water resources, biodiversity, and renewable energy. So we just want to look at what funding we have available in 2022, specifically under those the particular themes. Under the theme of the economic development, enterprise development, and job creation, and specifically under the broadband theme, we have 80,000 available for projects under that theme. And I suppose it's important to highlight that although it's called broadband, it's very much about the supporting communities to engage with and benefit from having broadband already in place. So that could be projects that would assist maybe broadband hubs. That could be the enhancement and promotion of facilities. It could be the purchase of additional equipment. It's there to support communities to actually enhance remote working facilities. I think this has become very topical, and particularly with during COVID, when people were actually working remotely. Perhaps there are still people that will continue to work remotely, but perhaps maybe they want the option of maybe going to their local community facility as opposed to maybe just working within their home. So that's probably something that communities, I think, could benefit from if they were to maybe enhance facilities in their community facilities and promote that to people who are working remotely, that they might actually use those facilities. Because again, there could be a potential economic benefit to communities to actually look at that. Then also, of course, the area of ICT training, again, very important. And again, I suppose it's skills that a lot of people have developed, again, particularly under COVID, when a lot of things were done online, etc. But again, there's scope there for communities. If there were particular groups of people within your community that would like to undertake ICT training, then that's certainly something that could be supported through that particular sub-theme. And then under the theme of social inclusion, we have the basic services for hard to reach communities. And currently we have a budget in the region of 337,500 available for projects under that. And that really is supporting the provision of recreational infrastructure and community facilities for hard to reach communities. Then under rural youth, we have a budget there of 22,500. And that could be available then for supporting of and the improvement of youth cafes or clubs involved in social, recreational, educational initiatives. It could be also could involve maybe training programs that would enhance rural youth's abilities, maybe for job creation or to engage maybe a little bit more within their communities. And then under the rural environments theme, under the water resources, we have 54,500 available for projects under that particular sub-theme. And that could include support for community projects aimed at protecting water resources. It could be specific projects, plans, studies, educational awareness initiatives would also be covered under that particular sub-theme. And then looking at the local biodiversity, we have funding approximately 79,000 available there. And that will be supporting community projects aimed at improving local biodiversity. It could be tidy towns, biodiversity plans and initiatives, things like community gardens, orchards. Again, education and awareness initiatives would also be eligible for funding there. And then the last one there is the renewable energy. And at the moment we have 162,500 available for projects under that measure. And that would be there to support projects which aim to improve the energy efficiency of community facilities through the installation of renewable energy measures. And now just to look at the application process. At the moment, we are accepting applications being received on what we call a rolling call basis, which is essentially first come, first served. So the process would involve submitting an EOI with project details. And once that has been assessed, and if it's deemed eligible in principle, then you will be invited to complete a full application form for funding. And that's where we can help you, obviously, with filling out that application and getting all the supplementary documents in order. In terms of the grant amount and rate of aid available, for capital projects, groups can qualify for up to a 75% of grant aid rate to a maximum of 150,000. Then under analysis and development, that could be plans or feasibility studies. The community grant aid rate is actually 90%, and that would be up to a maximum of 30,000. And training initiatives may be funded at a rate of up to 100%. So that's just a snapshot of what's available for under Leader for this year. And we have our contact details there. We have an office here in Mullingar and in Athlone as well. And I work with my colleagues, Peter Ormand and Anna Duffy, on the Leader programme, and we are contactable there. You can get us through leader@westcd.ie, or you can find additional information on our website. Thank you very much for your attention.
Very good. Thanks, Bernie, for that interesting presentation. Our next presenter is Peter Ormand, also from Westmeath Community Development. And Peter's going to talk to us about the volunteer service and the volunteer centre. So it's over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Pat. Just one second to share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
Peter, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks very much, and I'd like to welcome you all here to tonight's meeting. Thank the staff of Westmeath County Council and PPN for organising this event. It's always a pleasure to present at it. Yeah, so my name is Peter Ormand. I'm coordinator of the Westmeath Volunteer Centre, and I'll just briefly run down through what we do and what we're about. And our vision is to create a vibrant Irish society where every person feels connected to the community through active participation in voluntary activities. And our mission, which is very important to us and is really at the core of what we do, is to promote the value of volunteering and increase the range and quality of volunteering opportunities in Westmeath. Our key objectives, we have 3 key objectives, and they are to raise awareness of volunteering by offering support service to the public and to community and voluntary organisations. And then to increase access to volunteering by increasing the capacity of community and voluntary organisations to engage with volunteers and to enhance their services. And the last one then is to increase the quality of volunteering by promoting and develop best practice in volunteer management through information and training. And this applies to both the volunteers and the organisations that we work with. We always say it's very important that we have quality opportunities out there for people to engage and volunteer with. So what do we do? And a lot of people ask this question about the volunteer centre, and I always, I suppose, describe it as it's more like a recruitment agency where you're matching jobs to a position. And what we're doing the exact same, we're matching volunteer opportunities with the relevant organisations. And we do this in a number of ways. We have our placement services, which is we have a placement officer, Carmel Cummins, and she offers advice and support to individuals about different volunteer opportunities. So these are people who are looking to volunteer their time, they respond to some of their ads, they register with ourselves, and so Carmel looks after that offering. Then we also have a support worker, Mary Weldon, and she looks after organisations. And so we support organisations who involve volunteers and help them develop quality volunteer roles and opportunities. And as I mentioned previously, it's very important for us that the volunteer organisation gets the best out of the volunteers, and also that the volunteers get a meaningful feedback and from the position to do. We also very much promote the positives of volunteering around the county, and we provide a guarded vetting service for groups who do not have access to their own liaison person. So we'd have many groups in the county who wouldn't have access to their own person, so we can carry out the guarded vetting on their behalf. And the last thing then that we're involved in is providing training to community and voluntary groups specific to volunteering. in terms of what's involved, what's expected of them, the standards, the feedback, you know what I mean, the Garda vetting process, if that's necessary or not necessary. So we're all there to answer those queries on behalf of community and voluntary groups. And the majority of work that we'd be involved with would be in not-for-profit making organisations. And we also, to register then as a volunteer or an organisation, we have a central management system through Salesforce, where we're able to record and monitor and manage the system. In terms then of some of the sample volunteer opportunities, there's a number of them listed here on the sheet in front of us, but I'll just mention a few of them that have been, I suppose, that are very relevant and very popular and something that, I mean, but there's many more than what I've listed here in front of you. But some of the ones I just want to mention is, for example, is the befriending service, where a volunteer can maybe have half an hour a week. They can come onto the befriending service. They can ring 2 or 3 people that maybe feel isolated, alone. Many of these people wouldn't receive or see people from one end of the week to the other. So if someone has an opportunity like that, may be able to spare a half an hour in the week and make those phone calls. In the world of social media, we find, you know what I mean, some organizations out there might have members that are proactive in social media, and they might ask us would be able to support them in that regard. And again, we might put out a call looking for someone in their community that would be good at social media and would be able to maybe give a hand for maybe half an hour a month or whatever it is. And that's another very popular one. In terms then of, I suppose, festival events, they're always looking for stewards and people to get involved, and I mean, a lot of these tend to be one-off events. So again, that's another very, very popular one. Maintenance, and I know Westmeath Community Development have a program there in terms of that, but again, they'll be looking for volunteers in terms of looking maybe for some retired people that have maybe a carpenter or a plumber or whatever that might be able to do a small bit of maintenance in their community. And again, for volunteering, I'm talking really small stuff, items that would take maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do, that you can't get a plumber, you can't get someone else out, carpenter out to do these works. And one thing is that we're not displacing anyone, we're just asking someone to volunteer. Then we have youth leaders, adult literacy, animal welfare, just to name but a few. So there's many opportunities out there for people, and the work that we tend to do tends to be some of the not so mainstream sporting organisations will always get volunteers, but there's lots of smaller groups, maybe charity shops, different groups that are out there doing work, social inclusion groups, and they often find it difficult. So we're always there to work with them, and we'd have a close working relationship with Linda Jo and her team there on Cycap also. I suppose the COVID brought about many restrictions, and I just mentioned before the presentation in terms of being not able to get out to communities. But one of the positives of COVID was the number of roles that came available online. And while we're a Westmeath volunteer centre, and there's now a volunteer centre in every county in Ireland, the online opportunities enabled people to volunteer in any part of the country. So if someone had an opportunity that was online, maybe for example in Donegal, and we had someone in Athlone or Mullingar that was able to do that, we could put them in contact with that volunteer opportunity, and they could go on it. And some of them are mentioned there, such as online grind tutors, conversational English, leisure budget initiatives, future age action. So there's plenty of opportunities there, again, on our website, if anyone wants to get involved or contact ourselves. One of the biggest events, I suppose, that's happening in Westmeath and in Ireland this year is the Clar 2022, and that takes place in Mullingar between the 31st of July to the 7th of August this year. And we've been involved with the festival committee. We have a subgroup set up looking after volunteers, and it's certainly been a very, very positive programme to date so far. And in the Clar, we'll have 1,200 volunteer opportunities. And so the challenge for us as an organisation and as a subgroup working is to fill. We're looking for about 800 people to volunteer for over the course. And there's further information there on our website. So we're looking for people that may be able to volunteer for 4 hours, and maybe some of them be able to do multiple slots over the course of the week. So if anyone's interested, the link is here on the presentation, and it's also available on the Clar website, Westmeath County Council's website, and on our own website. Some of the opportunities that will be available on the Clar in Mullingar is street stewards, assisting our competitors, the green flag ambassadors, volunteering at concerts, helping with social media, photography, and many other roles. And I said, the response has been good so far, but we still have a long ways to go. So I'm appealing here tonight, if anyone in your own community that you know, if anyone in your own clubs, you might share some of these slides maybe later on and ask them to register with ourselves, and we'll provide training and help with you as the time gets nearer. We have a program of events set up between now and the end of July, so don't be afraid to put your names forward. And the response so far to date has been great. Yesterday, someone just rang me that had expertise in social media, wanted to get involved. So I mean, we put the structures in place for them to get involved straight away, because it was a fantastic work there for them to be doing. So again, it's going to be a great event come next July. So we want to make it really a flagship. It's going to be a flagship event for Mullingar, for Westmeath, but we certainly want to make it a flagship event to showcase what volunteers can do in the community. Just in terms, just for own statistics for last year, we had 301 new volunteers registered with ourselves. 65 organisations took people onto work, and we had just 8,000 volunteer hours recorded in 2021. So I mean, that's still a very good figure given the climate that we operated in, that 8,000 hours were taken up by people volunteering in their different communities. And then with 220 Garda vetting applications processed on behalf of organisations. So, like Bernie said, we're based in Westmeath Community Development, and we have offices in the Mullingar Business Park and also in the Blyry Industrial Estate. And so if anyone needs to contact us, our contact details are there. And I'd like to thank you all for your cooperation.
Thank you, Peter. I suppose volunteering has really come to the fore in the last couple of years with COVID, and we hope to continue that good work with the FLA. FLA is a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity for the county, so keep up the good work, Peter, there. So our next speaker is Dr. Isabella Donnelly, Senior Energy and Environmental Consultant with ORS, and she's going to talk to us about the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, or SEAI as we probably all know it. So it's over to you, Isabella. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Pat, and thanks a million to Ursula and the PPN team for inviting me on this evening to chat through the Sustainable Energy Community Network. So can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect, that's great. Okay, so my name is Isabella Donnelly, and thanks Pat for the great introduction. I work with Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland and ORS, supporting the Sustainable Energy Community Network throughout the country, or throughout Westmeath and throughout the Midlands as a regional coordinator. So I'm just going to run through quickly what Sustainable Energy Community is and the journey they typically take, and then what we're all here for this evening is the different grants that are available to SECs. So Sustainable Energy Community is a community where everyone works together to be more energy efficient, to utilize renewable energy technologies where possible, and then to adopt the smart technologies that allow us to use that renewable energy the most efficient way. So at the minute, we have 622 SECs throughout the country, with 15 in Westmeath. And if anybody on the call tonight wants to check if there's an SEC in your proximity, you can check it there at the link shared on the slides. Or if there isn't an SEC in your area and you think it's something you might like to get involved with, or a group of people in your community might like to get involved with, you can sign up to the network at that link, or you can reach out to me and I can chat through the SEC program with you a bit more if I don't cover everything for you this evening. So typically SECs are groups that form as subgroups maybe of tidy towns, but we do have a few groups that have come together just with an interest in their energy use and energy efficiency and all the related issues around the climate issues. So it comes from a variety of different groups. So the SEC journey then, the first step after you join the network, I reach out to you and provide some learning materials, answer any questions the group would have. and then typically move on to the plan stage where there is grant funding for an energy master plan, which I'm going to go through a little bit further. And then you move on to the do stage, which is where you actually get on the ground and upgrade homes or community centres, etc. And I'm going to chat through the grants that are available in the do stage as well. So moving on to the energy master plan, kind of the first step on doing upgrades. So an energy master plan ranges in funding level from 10,000 to 25,000 euro. It's 100% funded to groups, to SECs, and I can help you then with identifying how big your community is. So some communities are just a street or a small village, and they get up to 10,000 euro to do an energy master plan. Up to level 2, 15,000. So we have towns like Castlepollard get around the 15,000 euro, and then Mullingar get an energy master plan grant amount of 20,000, and potentially Athlone. We're trying to engage Athlone to maybe come on the journey with us. And then kind of a national or kind of a wider, if we can demonstrate a wider influence than that, we can get up to 25,000 euro. For an energy master plan. And just to note that the grants are retrospective, but we have mechanisms in place to help communities that may not have the money up front to pay an energy consultant to do an energy master plan. So what is an energy master plan then? So it gives an analysis of an area and the energy spend in that area. So to really quantify the improvements through your upgrades and your energy efficiency upgrades, you need to know where you're starting from. So it's a really good analysis of how much energy is being spent in an area. Then it looks and assesses where you can improve your energy efficiency and where you can use renewable energies. So all this data is pulled together and it all combines into a register of opportunities, which is essentially a list that a community can undertake to improve their energy efficiency, reduce their energy spend, and reduce their carbon emissions. So the register of opportunities would look at things like upgrading homes. It'd look at your building energy ratings of your homes in an area and identify homes that would really benefit from going up to the higher BER ratings. It looks at community buildings, commercial buildings, and how they can be improved regards energy efficiency. So it's a really useful tool for a community to come together to look at their energy spend and to look and see how they can reduce that energy spend. So the typical journey then, a community has their energy master plan completed. They have a lovely register of opportunities identifying where they can improve their energy efficiency. The next step then would be to look at the community grant scheme. So the SEAI community grant scheme, it opens every year to SECs, and it is coordinated by project coordinators who bring communities together and put in an application for them. So the things that the community grant scheme would fund, and I'll go through the levels of funding in the next slide, but the things that they fund would be, say, like your building fabric upgrades, so looking at insulation and stuff like that, the actual body of your buildings and how you can reduce your thermal escape and things like that. Technology and system upgrades, so looking at smart controls on your boilers, etc., on your electricity using devices, etc. Integration of control systems, so that would kind of be like having your home zoned, so you're only heating areas that are occupied, etc. Integration of renewable energy sources, that's looking at solar panels on your roof, heat pumps potentially, other sources of energy for heating as opposed to oil and fossil fuels, and domestic combined fabric upgrades. So this is one of the few grants that also offer support towards, say, things like upgrading windows, doors in combination with your insulation and etc. And then on some occasions, if you can demonstrate an innovation to a project, the SEAI will look at that on a case-by-case basis. So it's a really good way to kind of get communities to think how they can be innovative about energy saving and energy education in the community. So again, the link there for project coordinators is on the slide for SECs that may be at that stage of the journey. So yeah, the level of grants then available to homes and to businesses and community buildings. So for private homes that are fuel poor, so these would be homes that would be in receipt of certain social welfare payments, they can get up to 80% funding level. Private homes, non-fuel poor, is up to 35%. Local authority homes and private rented homes up to 35%, and then housing associations up to 50%. And then for your non-residential buildings, so your not-for-profit community building like a community centre, etc., it's between 30 to 50%. So the up to 50% will depend on the operations in the community centre or the community building regards profits and not-for-profit status. So and then the private and public sector, so that would be kind of your businesses, say in your area, that they can get grants up to 30% for retrofits. And then the public sector exemplar, again, that would be if the project could show real innovation and demonstration in what they want to undertake, and there's potential maybe to get up to 50% funding for that project. So that's the SEC network and the grants available really in a nutshell. And my job is to support any communities in Westmeath that want to start on the journey or who are on the journey and want to progress further on the journey. So all my contact details are there, and yeah, I'd love to chat to anybody who's thinking about starting on the SEC journey. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Isabella. That's some very interesting stuff there that a lot of us probably aren't aware of. So it's good to get a heads up on it and have the links there that we can all access. So thanks again, Isabella, for that. Our next speaker is Tony Quiche, who's the Westmeath Sports Partnership Coordinator, and he's going to talk to us about sports support programs and sports support grants. Thanks, Tony.
Tony, you're on mute still, sorry.
Apologies, sorry, when I went to full screen there, I couldn't see to unmute myself. So sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, my name is Tony Wheat. I'm the Westmeath Sports Partnership Coordinator. First of all, well done to Ursula and the team for organising tonight. And also thanks to you for inviting us to present. So just to give you a quick rundown of the sports partnership, what we do, we're basically out to promote and develop sport and physical activity in Westmeath. So in simplest terms, we're out to get more people taking part in sport and physical activity. So we kind of do that in a number of ways. We provide and deliver our own sessions. We have our own staff who are we have a community sports development officer, and we have a sports inclusion development officer, soon to be supplemented by an outdoors development officer. So we work in partnership. Our officers work in partnership with a variety of different partners, whether it be clubs, schools, community groups and organisations. So we have quite a diverse sort of portfolio of people that we work with. We're always looking to grow that. So just to give you again a bit of an overview of some of the stuff that we do, just sort of expanding slightly on what I've just mentioned there. We have a range of education and training opportunities for clubs, for individuals. So you can see there sort of safeguarding. I won't go through them all. I'm going to touch on volunteer support a bit later on. Some of the community stuff that we get involved with, we have some sort of specifically targeted stuff around men on the move, women on the move, women on water. So, you know, again, those are just a few small examples of the community stuff that we do. And we do a lot of work in schools with sports hall athletics, daily mile, where we're trying to get all kids in schools to do a mile a day. More recently, we've been involved in Marathon Kids, which is getting kids similar to Daily Mile to get kids up and about, and skipping rope, where we've actually just engaged in the last 12 months with 4,000 children in Westmeath have taken part in that programme. So that's a real boost for everybody last year. Some of the disability stuff, we do tag rugby, we do football for all. A range of stuff there. We've got hand cycles, specially adapted cycles and wheelchairs. So again, that's quite a diverse range of stuff. And just generally, we sort of in COVID times, we developed some online programs when obviously people were locked down and not able to go out anywhere. So we may look to continue some of those because that sometimes sort of suits people's personal situations. And again, those online classes are things like HIT classes and movement and things like that. So that's a bit of an overview of some of the programs and activities that we have. In terms of some of the direct support financially, we have an annual club grants program. So it's clubs and community groups really, but primarily sports clubs. We run it once a year. We don't have a date confirmed as yet, but we're looking at some time in the spring. So probably looking at end of Q1. Total pot is only around 10,000, so it's not huge money, but it's helpful hopefully to those who apply. As I say, it's open to sport and physical activity clubs. Really, what we're looking to fund are proposals that will have a positive impact on participation levels, particularly new participants. So we're looking to develop new participants, new groups, new teams, new opportunities. So I suppose just to give you a practical example, if there was a club that wanted to fund, they wanted a new girls football team, for example, they would have a good application for us to fund them for some sort of kit and equipment. If it was an already existing team that wanted kit and equipment, well, we wouldn't fund that because that's an existing program that would come within your existing sort of day-to-day running costs. So we're looking at new and looking at developing. The maximum award is €500. So it's as I say, it's not huge money, but I think from past experience, a lot of the clubs that get these grants find them very useful. They're not capital grants, so we don't fund any capital equipment. It's basically sort of kit and equipment and aids for increasing participation. To be eligible, you must be registered with a national governing body of sport. So for sports clubs, that's fairly standard. You would have to be registered with an NGB anyway, and also with the PPM. So those are the criteria. It's a reasonably straightforward process. Last year we started using a Microsoft Forms application process which actually simplified the process a lot. We're happy to help anybody that wants to apply to talk through. And the grants come with terms and conditions. So when we announce the grants, those terms and conditions will be there for all to see, and then people, if they wish, can see what we are likely to fund. So that's the club grants. Just moving on. For the last 2 years, we've had funding from the Dormant Accounts programme to deliver or to offer volunteer support grants. We haven't had confirmation yet, but we expect confirmation anytime soon that we'll be successful again this year. The previous 2 grants that we've had have been for 11,500. So in the last 2 years, we've given out 23,000 worth of volunteer support grants it's actually worked out as €1,000 per club. So we've given out 23 grants worth of €1,000 each. So the idea behind the volunteer support grants, as it says there, is to sort of build the capacity of clubs, the volunteer capacity of clubs and organisations. So that can be, it can be in a number of ways, really. It can include some of the obvious stuff that you might think of for sports, stuff like coaching, sort of developing new coaches for the clubs, leadership offerings, so sports leaders qualifications, but also some other stuff that's related to clubs and groups as well, like sort of safeguarding, putting club members through safeguarding that will enable them to take part and assist in coaching sessions or other club activities. Governance is a big topic these days with sports clubs, particularly for Sport Island. You know, they're very much looking to make sure that any clubs who are going to benefit sort of from public money are complying and have a good solid governance structure. So that's something else that might be funded. Again, first aid, big hot topic, you know, sort of defibrillators and things like that. So we can facilitate first aid training. And committee training is another big one. I know it's something that was mentioned earlier on, but this would be a sort of sport specific committee training. So there are a number of different things. I mean, that's just that's an inexhaustive, you know, that's not a completely exhaustive list there. There's other things that may be funded as well. This particular round, Sport Island have said there's going to be a particular emphasis and focus on applications from disadvantaged areas, which obviously, you know, we have a number of those in Westmeath. So again, they'll be sort of looked on particularly favourably. Ones involving developing females, developing women and girls participation at all levels and in all areas is a priority for Sport Island and for ourselves here. And also disability focused applications. So, you know, there's a real need to develop capacity of volunteers to take part and to facilitate disabled sports. So again, that's when we have our confirmation of funding, we'll probably get that in the next sort of couple of months, and then we're likely to run that after the club grant. So it's probably going to be sometime during the summer. So we'll be promoting the club development grants and the volunteer support grants through the PPN and also through all our social media channels. We do all the usual ones you would expect: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So at the time, as I say, this time I can't give you dates, but keep an eye out for those later this year, and we'll obviously promote them through the PPN anyway. Again, we can assist with the process. You know, if people want to apply, have got any questions, we'll happily answer. We'll help try and answer anyway. Okay. This one, National Sports Capital Funding, isn't something that's directly through Westmeath Sports Partnership. It is a national scheme, as it says there. And it's the last round of the National Sports Capital Funding was closed in 2021. In fact, it was March 2021. And it doesn't run every year. So at the moment, there isn't a date announced for the next round of sports capital funding. There will be, I expect there will be another round. You know, we're talking about sort of fairly big money capital projects here. But to give a heads up, and it's, you know, Sport Island advised me to just sort of recommend to clubs who may be interested, you know, when the next round comes about, to be sort of prepared well in advance. So you have to, a club or organisation must register with OSCAR, which is their online application portal, to be eligible. So the link is on there, as you can see there, and obviously I think this presentation will be available. So and to be eligible, so you must have a tax registration number for the revenue. So again, it's an online process, and it involves pitches, buildings, lighting, non-personal equipment. So you know, we can assist with that process as well as and when the time occurs, and it is a really good one. I know that a number of clubs and organisations in Westmeath have really benefited from the National Sports Capital Funding over the years. So again, well, worth keeping an eye out, and if we hear of a new round, we'll obviously be promoting that as well. So yeah, I mean, that's basically me. Those are our social media handles should you wish to contact us, get engage with us, and that's me. My details are on there. Our email address as well as mine is on there, and always happy to talk and engage with anyone who wants to get people more active in sport and physical activity. So thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Okay, Tony, thanks very much for that. Again, a lot more useful information there in that presentation. So our next presenter then is Mary Goldsbury, who works in the community development section in Westmeath County Council. She's going to talk to us about rural support grants, town and village renewal, Clar, and the outdoor recreation infrastructure scheme.
Hi everyone, I hope you can all hear me.
Yeah, we can, Mary.
Thanks. Thanks, Pat, and thanks, Ursula and your colleagues for having me and giving me the opportunity to explain a little bit about the rural support schemes. So you're all very welcome, and I hope you find this information session helpful. I'm going to talk to you about the rural support schemes. My name is Mary Goldsberry and I'm in the community development section. So basically the rural support schemes, like they were initially launched in 2016 under the Action Plan for Rural Development, and basically to support the revitalisation of rural Ireland. They're funded under the Department of Rural and Community Development and administered through the local authorities. So there are three elements to the rural support schemes. They're Clar, Town and Village Infrastructure Scheme. All of these schemes, if projects are delivered under them, they must be open to the public without an appointment. So basically, they can't be in an enclosed area like a park around that would close gates at 6 o'clock in the evening. The general public have to have access to all of these projects that are delivered under these schemes at all times. The presentation I'm going to give to you tonight is actually based on the 2021 schemes that were announced. They're normally announced during summer, and the generalization of the schemes are usually the same, but there are elements that could be different, and indeed they can also bring out new schemes throughout the year. But if any new schemes are brought about, we'll notify you through the VPN, through our website and through the local papers. So you will be kept informed. So the first scheme I'll just talk to you a little bit about is the Clar scheme. And Clar is basically, it's targeted investment program for rural areas that aims to provide funding for small infrastructure projects in areas that the aim of Clar is to support sustainable development of identified Clar areas to attract people to live and work there. It applies only to areas of the county designated as rural disadvantaged based on the 2006 CSO data, population decline. So in 2021, the maximum grant payable was 9% of the project costs, or a maximum of 50,000, whichever was the lesser, and that was for Measure 1 and for Measure 2. The remaining 10% was looked after then by either the Westmeath County Council or the community groups, or indeed both. And the projects are usually completed then last couple of years schemes. The 2021 Clar programme was delivered through 3 separate measures, and the details of these separate measures do change each year. So last year's scheme then brought about Measure 1 was for support for schools, community and safety measure. Measure 2 was for outdoor community recreation facilities, and Measure 3 was for community wellbeing measure. And then there was an element 3A and 3B, community gardens and allotments. And then 3B was mobility and cancer care transport. So Measure 1, just to delve into what kind of things were allowable under this scheme, and I have some funding amounts that were allocated then as part of Measure 1. So to just give you a flavour, and this hasn't really changed in the last couple of years. So we have purchase of replacement flashing amber lights. So if you take into account national schools, outside the schools, like all these projects, as I said earlier, have to be open to the public without an appointment. So they can't be inside the school wall for the community to use as a whole. And this measure is really a safety measure for the community group and the school users. So it's flashing amber lights, child safety signs, digital speed safety signs, road markings outside the school, pedestrian crossings, footpaths, car parking, provision of bus shelters, public light, and COVID-19 safety related intervention. The need for rationale must be demonstrated in the project information section of the application form. But the total amount is 50,000. So then measure 2 then is, as I said, was to support the enhancement of existing and or development of new accessible outdoor community recreation areas. And these are a sample of a few of the projects that the department were approving. So outdoor cinema, bandstand amplifiers, outdoor drinking water fountains, covered seating areas, picnic benches, and I suppose these are all relative to COVID-19. So anything that would help the public to get out and about in open spaces was generally approved by the department. So they're just a few of the schemes that were approved. That could be very different this year, but all schemes will be notified through the PPM, our council website, and advertised through the paper. So measure 3A, this is community gardens and allotments. This measure supports community gardens, allotments, and sensory gardens. These facilities must be public accessible, as all of the schemes are. Types of interventions then that were considered are groundworks, footpaths, raised bed, native pollinator plants, sensory planting and equipment, polytunnels. You get an idea there from the screen of what was allowed and what wasn't, barbecue areas. So, but the main thing then that all projects then must display and encourage abidance by leave no trace principles. That was very important and was checked upon in a few audits. So the measure 3B, mobility and cancer care transport, wasn't actually delivered directly, so you wouldn't apply to the council for this scheme. I'm just giving you information here tonight in case there are any agencies out there that would be interested in it. It was operated directly by the Department of Rural and Community Development and was open to established organisation groups that operated entirely on a voluntary basis and provided transport to and from daycare, other medical therapy, respite services for those with significant mobility issues, including requiring specialised wheelchair accessible vehicles to and from treatment hospitals and centres. And this was funded under the National Cancer Care Programme. So the rate of aid was 90%, and the maximum amount was 50,000 for wheelchair accessible vehicle and 100,000 for a bus. And I suppose the department was recognising the critical role that volunteer organisations play in the provision of vital services to vulnerable sectors of the community. And the level of interest in this particular funding stream was noted by the department, and therefore they allocated this funding for mobility and cancer care transport support. But as I said, it is something that you apply directly to the department of, not through the council like the other schemes are applied to yourselves. So just a picture or two here for you, just to show you what can be done under the Clar scheme. So if it's in the designated area, and this is Street Parish, and it was done under measure 2, and it was the outdoor community recreation facilities. So sensory garden planting was done, and there were outdoor gazebos, and then there were seats put down all around the track, and there were outdoor exercise equipment that was also put in, and it's just finished. An awful lot of work went into the scheme, thanks to Kevin Brady and his team out there in the street, and I definitely recommend it. It's a lovely walking track and a safe environment for anybody that would like to visit it. Next up, we have Myvore school safety measure, and this was done under measure 1, and it's a school safety measure, and you can see here how it makes it safe for children and parents dropping children off to school. So it's the footpath and safety area done there. Oops, I'm astray here. So so next one up is Boher school safety measure. And again, this is the safety measure outside the school. The footpath is done up there, and a set down area as well. So next up is Town and the Village scheme. Town and Village scheme. The types of projects supported under this scheme are projects that bring vacant. This was in 2021. It can vary from year to year, but last year the focus was on derelict buildings to bring them back into multi-purpose spaces or for residential occupancy. Also for vacant properties to bring them up and use them as remote working hubs. This was the flavour of the month last year, and it seems to be going to be followed through in 2022. So regeneration projects that support active and vibrant towns and villages centres, projects to support the upgrade and enhancement of shop fronts and street facades in towns and villages, projects to develop parks, green spaces, recreational amenities and town centres to make them vibrant hubs for the community enjoyment and to increase footfall for the local businesses. This is the main concern of the town and village plan, and they want to generate life in the towns and villages, and if the schemes are within the town and village, they will be looked upon favourably. The one thing I suppose to remember about this, like they are for relatively small towns and villages. For example, there are two categories that are allowed funding under this scheme. Category 1 is for towns and villages with a population under 5,000 people. Category 2 is for towns with a population from 5,000 to 10,000. And the programme is funded under Project Ireland 2040 as part of our future Ireland's Rural Development Policy 2021 to 2025. So, most of the schemes were all the same last year. That wasn't the case in previous years, but Town and Village again is 90% funded by the department. 10% is match funded by the county council or the community, and sometimes both. The minimum grant available last year was 20,000, and the maximum was generally 100,000. A higher maximum amount of 500,000 was considered for one project where a robust case was made demonstrating exceptional benefit to the town. So the project completion timeframe is normally 12 to 18 months, but again, this can change depending, of course, on the size of the project as well and what they introduce during the year. But it'll just give you a flavour as to what was available last year. So here are some pictures of before and after of one of our recently completed projects, and this was done through the community group again in Clonmellon. And the before pictures on your left hand side, the footpaths were in need of repair, and at the edges of them was very broken and very unsafe, and the community group put in an application through their expressions of interest, and it was looked favourably upon by ourselves and then through the department. So the footpath there on the right, then you can see it's all redone. So next up we have Collinstown, and Collinstown have a very active community group out there as well, and throughout the years there's a sample there just of the pedestrian crossing that was put in. And there's other elements done by the community group out there as well, such as planting and bedding and that, and safety footpaths throughout the village as well. It's certainly worth taking a note of, especially when they have their farmers market on every second Saturday out there. It's very worth while taking a visit out there. It looks very well, so compliments to all the groups I'm showing pictures of tonight and many others. Next up is the Outdoor Recreation Infrastructure Scheme, and the ORIS is just the short, what we call it, and funded jointly by the Department of Rural and Community Development and Fáilte Ireland, and it's administered through ourselves, Westmeath County Council. The ORIS scheme is for the development of new outdoor recreation infrastructure for the necessary repair, enhancement or promotion of existing outdoor recreational infrastructure in the countryside. So it's not in the town and village, it has to be. It's all about getting out and getting healthy, getting walking. So linked trails of small, medium and large scale is really what this scheme is about. And the type of projects typically funded under the scheme is small, medium and large scale projects for walking, for trails, walkways, cycleways, greenways, blueways, mountain access routes, for bridleways, and open water amenities at bogs, rivers, lakes and beaches, including tidal pools. So the amenities at water shores and that was newly introduced there last year. So the applicants in 2021 were strongly encouraged to consider opportunities to develop recreational amenities associated with our bogs, rivers, lakes and beaches. Again, 90% was funded by the department, 10% by the county council and our community group, and both. The minimum grant available was 20,000 and the maximum generally was 200,000. A higher maximum of 500,000 was considered for one large-scale infrastructural project. The timeframe for completion was 12 to 18 months for this as well. I mentioned earlier, the department can announce new elements to the schemes during the year, and as I said, we'll be notifying you through the PPN, through our website and in the papers. This was a new measure introduced in 2021, and it was on a trial basis. I can't guarantee it'll be here this year, but more than likely it will be. It was for providing funding for detailed development of projects which would enable the group to reach a standard, or the project to reach a standard of application under measure 2 or 3 of the ORIS scheme. So basically it was like a feasibility study to see what costs were involved, see what planning was involved, and then it's ready to go whenever the measure 2 or measure 3 applications were announced, say the following year. So the development costs for strategic large-scale projects, funding approved under this project development measure is solely for the completion of the development and design stage of a project to enable it to reach readiness for a future application under measure 2 or measure 3. The maximum amount given was 50,000 and 12 months to complete the study. In 2021, we were granted funding under under measure 1 for ORIS for the carry out of feasibility study to identify the viability of developing Corrie-Donald walkway cycleway along the identified route between Rathone and Ballinlack. So that will just give you an example of the type that they're looking for now. So here is Mullameen Car Park, a picture of some of the works that was funded under the Measure 1 scheme, and it's basically the car parking areas were all laid out in a more orderly fashion, because prior to this people were parking everywhere, and previously then the benches were put in as well. Here we have one that's just completed now. It's a rest and play, and it's along the old rail trail greenway, and the works are at Tully, are in what was the waste area of ground adjoining the greenway car park, an amenity that can be utilised by locals and greenway users alike. There are 2 picnic benches, 3 cycle stands that were provided on a hard standing along the play equipment for children, along play equipment there for children as well. So basically all the Clar Town and Village and outdoor recreation schemes, you'll be probably wondering, gosh, which would our project fit in under? Well, I'll just say to you, don't worry about that. If you have a project or something that you would like to develop further, we'll be advertising expressions of interest, and David is going to speak about them after my presentation. We'll talk to you about how to go about that. But please don't worry about what project or what scheme your project would fall under. We'll take care of that once we receive your expressions of interest, and we look at them and match them with the relevant scheme. It's just important to note that it must be a recognised community group in order to put in an application. Individuals on their own, there's no point in putting in an application because you won't qualify as a community group. I just want to say that to you, and have your community data in order, like your insurance for your community group, your tax clearance certificate, have all of that in order, because there are quite a lot of requirements when the project is completion. We'll be looking for tax clearance certificates from the group. We'll be looking for their insurance, and of course we'll be looking for procurement as well. Like generally speaking, you need to get 3 quotes for every single project at least, and they have to be in written form as well, especially depending on the amount. But generally speaking, you know, you look for 3 quotes either by email or by letter form. And but if it's under 5,000, phone calls is fine. So that's basically my presentation. I'd like to thank them. We'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you. I'll hand you back to Pat now.
Thank you, Mary. A lot of information in that one, so that's one that's worth to keep an eye on when the expression of interest are advertised. As Mary said, David will be talking about those. So our next presenter is David Deering. Again, works with Mary in her side of the community development section. And David is going to talk to you a little bit about the new processes and the new grant management system that we're in the process of bringing in that he's leading on. So over to you, David.
I'm not sure, are you still on mute, David?
Sorry, technical
there you go.
problems. Now, hopefully everyone can see that. Thanks, Pat. David Deering is my name, and I'm with the Community Development section. And this evening, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about a new grants management system that we're installing in Westmeath County Council. So it'll be relevant to all the Westmeath County Council grants that were spoken about over the last hour. So what is the new system? So it's a new online grants application will be rolled out on a phase basis through the new system. And that basically, it's a new system, and we're going to start with the expressions of interest, which Mary just mentioned. So community projects expressions of interest application will be the first application to go through the system. And then for over the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to start adding applications that is going to go through the new grants management system. And just a little bit in relation to the expressions of interest, Mary referenced it there already. Basically, this application is we're looking for community groups to come in with their ideas for projects. Now, some projects will be just an idea, and that's fine, because this is the means that we will have to turn the good ideas into projects, and that can take a long time to develop. So we're hoping to get good ideas through this process, and it's going to be run through the new grants management system. Applications will be open in early March and will be advertised through the usual channels. So Mary already referenced them channels, the local newspapers, and the main one being the PPN. So just a little bit about how that will affect you as a community group when you're using the system. So community groups will register their group, and that'll be just by a group email and a password, and all future applications will be recorded under that group name. And just one point on that, we would encourage, and I'm sure the PPN encourage it as well, that community groups use community generic email if possible, and they try not to use personal emails. And just some key points on it. The grant system is already being used successful by other local authorities. So this particular system that we went with is in 4 or 5 different local authorities at the minute, and they're developing more or less the same processes as what we're trying to do. And so I suppose there's nothing to be afraid of from a group's perspective. It's a tried and tested system, and it works well in the other local authorities. System will record historical grant applications submitted by the group. So this sometimes can be something that the groups may struggle with if there's change personnel, change secretary, change treasurer, or whatever, when they go looking for applications that may be repeat applications, something that's lodged every year. So this new system will record it, and it'll be easy accessible by anyone on the group that logs in. The notifications will be issued to the group automatically through the system. So this is just streamlining the whole process for the community groups. So when your application is received, you'll get a receipt of application email. If we require further information, we will request it through the system, and then the notification of the decision will go through the system as well. So hopefully it'll be more visible for the groups as to where their application is in the process and what's currently happening for that particular application. System will allow groups to track the funding application status by logging in through the group email and password. So that's basically just what I covered there. It should be easy accessible by more than just one person in the group. Benefits of the new system to the community groups. these are just some points that we took into account when we were looking to develop this project. So it should promote transparency in the decision-making process. So it should be more visible for the community groups to see how we make our decisions in the council when it comes to grants, and also where their application is in the process. Records previous applications on the system, allowing groups to reference previous submissions. I've already spoken about the benefits of that. Forms will be designed in the easiest possible way. This is an important one. When we mention online grants management systems, it can often sound daunting to some groups. So the forms will be designed in the easiest possible way for any grants that we're dealing with. So we'll only look for information that we require and that we need. The grant process will be streamlined, so it should add to efficiencies within the council, but also streamline the process for the community groups. And then important point is that the supports will be available to any groups that have issues with the new system. So as I said, the first application that's going to be launched through this will be hopefully on the 11th of March. We'll advertise that, and in the run into it, anyone should be open for approximately a month, and we'll be there to assist anyone that's having issues with it. So that's really the grants management system that we are looking to install. There's a second element to the project that we're working on, and it's called a mapping project. So Westmeath County Council are currently in the process of mapping publicly funded projects that have been funded through the LEADER programme, the Town and Village, which Mary spoke about, the Outdoor Recreation and Infrastructure Scheme, and the Clar scheme, which Mary spoke about. So they're really big capital type projects that have been developed throughout the county over the last number of years. The process of mapping, so what we mean by mapping is that we are going to map them by their location, and there will be a public viewable system within our website that community groups and the general public will be able to log on and have a look and see what sort of projects have been funded in the county. And each project will have an information point, which will give you a little bit of data on the project and how it was funded. And this will be publicly available on online map, and that will allow the general public to view the project details and of course the funding source. So I suppose why are we doing this, and what will the system do? So it's to give the public and the community groups a tangible means to see the good work that has been done by the community groups across the county. So there has been massive work done in a large amount of big projects have been delivered across the county since 2016. So really we just want to show, I suppose, other towns and other areas what has been done within the county. It's to promote funding streams available to your area or your group. So the idea is that you will be promoting LEADER, which Bernie spoke about, and we'll be promoting all the town and village ones. But over time, we hope to add more data to that, and depending on what the community wants and needs. But that's the long-term plan. By mapping it and having the information and measuring what's important to us and to the community groups, it'll allow Westmeath County Council target areas of underfunding. So it'll show pockets of the county that is not developing any large scale projects or maybe lagging behind to other areas. It will also allow funding authorities measure and target disadvantaged areas. So we'll be able to see and hopefully work with our partners in Westmeath Community Development and other agencies that deliver training for disadvantaged areas. So it's really to encourage community groups to plan capital projects. So that's a very brief outline of what project we're working on at the minute. It is relevant tonight because we're talking about grants, and it's also just to make you aware that it's coming for the expression of interest in early March. So thanks, Pat. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, David, for that update. And I suppose, as David mentioned, we're trying to make the process streamlined for yourselves and groups that are submitting applications. So it's not all about making life easier for us, it's about trying to make life easier for yourselves as well. So I think